Everyone, welcome to Prime Business. I am Pius Kujobaka. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has further eased its monetary policy, cutting the lending rate by 250 basis points to 15.5% from 18%. They basically cited improved macroeconomic conditions and sustained growth momentum in the economy for the decision. More in this report.
Announcing the latest decision after the MPC meeting, Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama said the committee was encouraged by the continued moderation in inflationary pressures and the resilience of economic growth.
Sustaining Ghana's macroeconomic gains will hinge on disciplined fiscal policy, strong policy coordination, and targeted agricultural interventions to contain food inflation while remaining vigilant to heightened geopolitical tensions. Based on the foregoing considerations, the committee, the MPC, by a majority decision, voted to lower the monetary policy rate by 250 basis points to 15.5%. The committee will continue to monitor developments closely and take appropriate policy actions.
Dr. Isiama also assured that the bank is committed to ensuring lending rates come down to reflect the easing policy stance.
And let me explain that that is not an official commitment. That's my own personal, wish, my personal aspiration. Why? Because I have seen very high lending rates all my life from when I joined this institution in 1995. Lending rates have always been extremely high. It is my personal dream to see a reset in terms of lending rates. So it's just my own personal commitment, not an official one. And I must say that we are on course so far. Someone this morning was telling us that his bank called him and invited him to apply for a loan at 15%. 15%. A year ago, you were talking about over 30%. And then it is significant to know that banks are now beginning to call clients and asking them if they needed any loans that they could come and apply.
On the exchange rate, the governor played down concerns about the cedi's 4% depreciation recorded in January, insisting it does not pose a threat to macroeconomic stability.
It is very much in line with the framework that we have. I mentioned that what we have is a managed floating system. What that means is that you allow the exchange rate to adjust to shocks. It's part of the process. The cedi must move up, but then it must move down. Our objective is to ensure that the volatilities are not excessive. And so don't get worried if you see the cedi moving a little bit. It is normal. A number of factors, impact the cedi at any time. There are short-term factors, uncertainty of any kind, speculative behaviors, some noise in the market. Those can just move the rate, not because anything is wrong.
The latest rate cut signals the central bank's effort to balance price stability with growth support as Ghana's economy consolidates its recovery.
Reacting to the development, economist Dr. Edu Uzusa-Akodia welcomed the Bank of Ghana's decision to cut the monetary policy rate to 15.5%, predicting it will boost private sector growth. He believes the reduction is expected to lower borrowing costs for businesses and individuals, stimulating investment and economic activity. He spoke to JoyBusiness.
Well, if the cost of lending is lowered, you'd expect an increment in the private sector credit growth. So we hope to see a positive growth in the private sector credit. The areas to benefit most also will align with the government's vision. We saw the agricultural transformation agenda of the government, so we expect farmers to benefit from a lower lending rate. We also know of the manufacturing policies of the government. We know of mining, we know of tourism. In fact, all sectors of the economy are likely to benefit from this a possible lower lending rate. So we just have to position our country. One thing that we always stress as an economist is that our country, our economy is still vulnerable. we have to develop the base. And I was happy to hear from your intro that the President of the Republic is thinking of, having 100% ownership of the gold exports in the country, which is something we have been talking about for years. Gold alone accounts for 65% of our total exports, and it's more than Ghana's total revenue and grants. So if we're able to command a greater share of our resources, then we are good to go. So this is positive, and I believe that all sectors of the economy will benefit going forward.
Away from the policy rate cut, Ghana's building inflation for December 2025 has dropped marginally to reach 4.4%. That's according to data released by the Ghana Statistical Service. The data showed that this is the 8th decline ending December last year. More in this report.
Ghana's construction sector ended 2025 on a much calmer inflation path, as new data from the Ghana Statistical Service points to a sustained price stability across key building materials. Government statistician Dr. Al-Hassan Idrisu says a December 2025 prime building cost index shows 8th straight decline in year-on-year building inflation, a signal that cost pressures in the sector continue to ease.
Prime building cost index for December 2025 was 131.0. up from 125.5 in December 2024. This translates into a year-on-year inflation rate of 4.4% for December 2025 for the building industry. In plain language, this means, on the average, building input prices were 4.4% higher in December 2025 than they were in December 2024. Now, on a month-on-month basis, inflation was negative 0.2%. What does that mean? This means that between November and December 2025, building input prices fell by 0.2%. This is a key message for the construction sector. And what is the message? We are seeing price stability, and even as a small reduction in overall monthly building costs, but over the period, we are seeing that prices are becoming very stable.
Dr. Idrisu is encouraging individuals and developers to take advantage of the current stability and resume building projects that may have been delayed by earlier price spikes.
For government, this is a good time to spend strategically and fast-track key infrastructure projects, including the big push, while targeting the top drivers. The persistent labor inflation suggests a skills gap, so expanding training for artisans is important. For businesses, we advise you to lock in today's prices and secure medium-term contracts while inflation is low before any potential rebound. For households, with material prices stabilizing, it may be a good time to start or resume your building projects. And you can face your work to benefit from the reducing cost pressures.
Overall, building inflation slowed to 4.4% year-on-year, with prices also easing on a month-on-month basis.
President John Mahama has reaffirmed that the establishment of Gold Board has positioned Ghana to take full control over the export of gold from the country. This, he believes, has helped the country to export about 104 tons of gold from the small-scale sector in 2025. The president made the disclosure in a keynote address to open the 2026 Africa Trade Summit here in Accra. More in the following report.
The Trade Summit by the African Trade Chamber has assembled key African business leaders and policymakers to deliberate on trade integration and value addition on raw materials from the continent. Keynote speaker, President John Mahama, noted that Ghana is taking the lead to benefit from its natural resource base. He disclosed that the establishment of the Gold Board has positioned the country to increase earnings from natural resources, especially gold.
We're exercising greater sovereignty over our natural resources. The establishment of the Ghana Gold Board has given us greater control over our gold exports. In 2024, total gold exports from the small-scale mining sector was said to amount to 63 tons. Of this volume, the foreign exchange repatriation accounted for only about 40 tons of the exported gold. 23 tons of forex did not come back. Since the establishment of the Gold Board in April 2025, exports from the small-scale mining sector to date have increased to 104 tons, with 100% of the foreign exchange repatriated through our central bank.
Minister of Trade, Industry and Agribusiness, Elizabeth Ofosu-Jare, charged investors to see Africa as a global market opportunity for business growth.
Ultimately, the private sector must see African industrialization not as charity, but as a major global business opportunity, driven by a market of 1.4 billion people, a median age of 19, and vast potential for sustainable returns.
Executive Chair of the African Trade Chamber, Benedicta Lassie, told Joy Business that more action is needed to solve the challenges of the continent.
We have recognized that the trajectory of the continent is one that requires a lot more action than just conversations about the challenges we have. And so this platform is really a convening of the industry leaders that would lead Africa's industrialization path.
The two-day summit is under the theme Financing Africa's Industrialization, Developing Industrial Value Chains, Benefit and Market Integration.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the advisory board of the African Trade Chamber, Sir Sam Jonah, has charged African leaders to engineer policies to make the continent selfish in its development agenda. Speaking at the opening of the African Trade Summit, the business mogul said the vast resources on the continent, raw materials and minerals, should not be exported without value addition.
Ladies and gentlemen, Africa, with its 1.4 billion people, with its vast resources and youthful dynamism, is no weakling. We are the emerging force that can redefine the table, or we will risk being served upon it. This is the moment for Africa to be selfish, unapologetically so, boldly selfish in pursuing our interests. No more deference to distant agendas, no more exporting raw material potential while importing finished dependency. Selfish means prioritizing Africa first, beneficiating our minerals on African soil, processing our agriculture into global grants, manufacturing pharmaceuticals that secure our health sovereignty. Selfish means demanding fair terms in every deal, rejecting exploitation disguised as aid, and leveraging our collective weight to negotiate from strength. Carney urged middle powers to stop pretending about the other's flaws, to name realities and act. Africa, let us name it. The old world profited from our fragmentation. The new world demands our unity. Let's be selfish, yes, but in a way that uplifts all Africans, creating jobs that dignify, wealth that recirculates, and futures that inspire.
Away from trade reports, team lead of the Ghana Private Sector Competitiveness Program, Phase 2, Juliana Ofori-Kakari, has reiterated the program's commitment to strengthening the growth and resilience of Ghana's cashew and oil palm sectors. Speaking at a training workshop for small and medium-scale enterprises on quality, certification and standards, she noted that unlocking the sector's full potential requires inclusive and sustainable growth driven by improved trade and competitiveness.
The Phase 2 Ghana Private Sector Competitiveness Program training on quality, certification and standards is designed to support agribusinesses in the cashew and oil palm value chains to comply with internationally recognized standards and certification requirements. The initiative also seeks to enhance market readiness and expand trade opportunities for participating SMEs. Speaking to journalists, team lead for the program, Juliana Ofori-Kakari, reaffirmed the program's support for agribusinesses to access new and competitive markets.
In 2025, we had the call 2, and going through the applications, we noticed that quite a number of them are applying for certification, and therefore there was a need. We noticed that the process for which they are asking for the grant may not be able to support them to be able to qualify for certification. And as the program is to build and to improve the lot of businesses in the area of cashew and oil palm processing, we saw the need for us to orient, educate, and also for them to be able to align with the international standards, because we are talking about market penetration, and we are talking about meeting the global market environment.
Private sector development and trade specialist at the Swiss Embassy, Charlotte Esinam Afudego, pledged continued support for small and medium-scale enterprises, including the provision of grants to help accelerate their growth and competitiveness.
But this time around, we have added a component of funding. We are giving out grants to some of these SMEs because, yes, they know about standards, but it also comes with cost. So we have a component where we are adding some funds to them to be able to help them meet some of these basic standards. We also have some standards in HACCP. It's expensive, but if they have access to some of these grants, it then helps them to be able to implement.
The Ghana Private Sector Competitiveness Program Phase 2 is supported by the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs and is being jointly implemented by NIRAS International Consulting and ProForest.
Government is intensifying its efforts to clamp down on the illegal transportation and smuggling of the country's tree crops to and from neighboring countries following the passing out of 85 persons as compliance enforcement officers. The officers forming the maiden cohort under the Tree Crops Development Authority are expected to fight unfair trade, illegal imports and exports of the crops while enforcing payments of statutory levies and taxes. The move is expected to eliminate illegality, promote fairness and ensure sustainable growth across the tree crop value chain. Emmanuel Braikweku reports.
The officers, comprising 70 males and 15 females, underwent rigorous months of physical and knowledge-based training on the legal mandates of the Tree Crops Development Authority. Ghana's cashew, coconut, oil palm, rubber, mango and shea value chain continue to face myriads of challenges impacting their growth to support the local economy. Owing to the persistent influx of imported crops to the defiance of regulatory requirements, Ghana is yet to reap off the economic prospects of these sectors. The deployment of the officers is expected to complement efforts in fighting against illegal and unregulated activities in the sector. Eric Opoku is the Food and Agriculture Minister.
A critical aspect of this mandate is the fight against illegal and unregulated activities, including illicit importation of vegetable oil and other practices that undermine local production and threaten the livelihood of over 1.2 million Ghanaians engaged in the oil palm, cashew shea, and rubber sectors. This compliance and enforcement unit is not intended to intimidate, but to educate, protect farmers and investors, enforce standards, and restore confidence in the sector.
The sector minister further highlighted the government's commitment to improving the activities of the authority to significantly contribute to the Agriculture for Economic Transformation and Feed Ghana initiatives.
Government's Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda and the Feed Ghana program place TCDA at the center of efforts to supply raw materials for local industry. Through strengthening regulation, land mobilization, and expanded production, the authority is positioning the tree crop sector to contribute more meaningfully to national economic development.
Chief Executive of the authority, Dr. Andiose Okra, says the task force will be collaborating with other security agencies to bring sanity to the tree crops sector.
Only TCDA has the mandate and of checking and issuing paperwork covering these 6 tree crops on transportation. The issuance of conveyance certificate from TCDA and the use of TCDA branded sacks will stop the over-harassment and extortion of our value customers or stakeholders on our roads. They complain a lot on the road. You pass there, they say, hey, you are bringing cocoa, you are taking cocoa away. Meanwhile, it's cashew or cashew. Then people started, some bad ones started taking some monies. Now, when you see our conveyance certificates, you see that we have captured everything, and when that one is showed, you know it's coming from Honorable Minister's Ministry, and it's authentic, and you have to allow it to go.
For JoyNews, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
And that's our part company here on Prime Business. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Razak is next with Prime Sports.